My son and his wife thought they could make me eat a sad sandwich in my own car with their little dog while they enjoyed fancy food at an expensive restaurant. They said I was too old and it would be too much for me. They thought I was just a weak old lady they could push around. But they had no idea that one day they would come crawling back to me, begging for help. And when that day came, I would show them what for your own good really means. Before I tell you this story, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I just want to know someone else is listening to this with me. And if this story touches your heart, please hit that subscribe button. It helps more people learn about how older people are sometimes treated badly by their own families. Now, let me tell you what really happened to me. My name is Margaret Wilson, and I'm 74 years old. I've learned that the meanest words often come from people who smile at you and say they love you. For 35 years, I worked as a nurse at our local hospital. This job taught me to be strong, to think fast, and to see through people who weren't telling the truth. I thought this experience had prepared me for anything life could throw at me. I was wrong. Nothing could have prepared me for how my own son Michael and his wife Jessica would treat me. After my dear husband Robert died, our cozy little house on Maple Drive felt so quiet and empty. Michael, my only child, used to be my best friend and my biggest support. But in the 3 years since he married Jessica, a woman who cared more about looking rich than being kind, my son became like a stranger to me. The love in his eyes was replaced by worry and stress. His easy smile was gone, replaced by the constant fear of not having enough money. They lived a life I didn't understand, buying things with credit cards and always trying to look like they had more money than they really did. When they visited my house, it wasn't to spend time with me. Jessica would look around at my comfortable old furniture, the pieces Robert and I had saved up for years to buy, and I could hear her whispering to Michael about how they could sell everything and make the house look more modern. My place in their lives had slowly changed. I wasn't their mom and grandma anymore. I was just someone who had things they wanted. My simple way of living embarrassed Jessica. She wanted expensive restaurants instead of my home-cooked meals. She wanted fancy cars instead of my reliable old sedan. They started making decisions for me, always saying it was to keep me safe. "Mom, you shouldn't be climbing ladders to clean anymore," Michael would say, sounding worried, but not really meaning it. "You might fall. Let us hire someone to do it." Of course, I knew they couldn't afford to hire anyone, and this would just make them more angry about money. "Margaret, sweetie," Jessica would say with a fake smile, "we've arranged for a taxi to take you to your book club meetings. It's not safe for you to drive at night anymore." My weekly visits to see my friends, one of the few things I still enjoyed, was suddenly called dangerous. Bit by bit, they took away my freedom. Every time they controlled what I did, they said it was because they loved me. I found myself agreeing with them, not because I believed them, but because arguing was exhausting. I was scared that if I fought back, I might lose my son completely. I knew they were having money problems. I would hear Michael on hushed phone calls in the other room, his voice tight with worry as he talked to credit card companies. But Jessica never stopped spending money on designer purses and weekend trips. I had my own savings from years of working as a nurse, but they never asked me directly for help. They didn't want me to just give them money. They wanted to control my house and my savings, things they thought should belong to them already. My house on Maple Drive was my safe place. It was where I raised Michael, where I loved Robert, where every room held precious memories. To them, it was just a house they could sell for money. I felt like a ghost in my own home, guarding memories they wanted to erase. Everything came to a head the week Michael got promoted at his job. He became a manager, which was a big deal. Jessica insisted we had to celebrate with dinner at Rosewood, the city's most expensive restaurant, a place where one meal cost more than I spent on food in a whole week. "You have to come, Mom," Michael said. "It's important. All the big bosses will be there. We need to show them we're a successful family." The words hurt my heart, but I agreed to go for his sake. I pressed my best blouse, polished my good shoes, and got ready for an evening of trying to fit in. I had no idea that their idea of looking like a successful family did not include having me sit at their table. I thought I was getting ready for a celebration. Instead, I was getting ready for the most embarrassing moment of my life. On the night of the dinner, I was ready and waiting in my living room 30 minutes early. I had taken extra care getting dressed, wanting to look nice for Michael's big night. I didn't want to be the embarrassing old mother that Jessica always made me feel like. My silk blouse was clean and pressed, and I wore the pearl necklace Robert had given me for our anniversary. I felt nervous but hopeful that maybe this dinner could bring our family closer together again. When they arrived, my hopes started to crumble. Jessica swept in wearing a sleek black dress that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. Her eyes quickly looked me up and down before she said in a cold voice, "You look nice, Margaret." Michael, looking stressed in his new suit, just mumbled, "Ready to go, Mom? We need to be there by 7:30. There was another surprise waiting outside. "We'll take the BMW, Mom," Michael announced, pointing to his shiny, expensive car parked next to my modest little Honda. "It looks more professional." His words stung. He was basically saying my car and my whole simple way of living wasn't good enough. We drove to the restaurant in uncomfortable silence. Jessica was busy on her phone, and Michael was driving aggressively through traffic, clearly stressed. Rosewood was even fancier than I had imagined. A man in a uniform took the car keys. The entrance was all glass and shiny metal. A doorman in a fancy hat bowed as we walked in. The restaurant was like a beautiful, quiet cathedral of expensive dining. Tables were spread far apart, and everyone there was wearing expensive clothes and jewelry. It was completely different from my quiet life on Maple Drive. We walked up to the hostess stand, where a tall, elegant young woman stood waiting. "Reservation for Wilson. Party of 3, Michael said, trying to sound confident even though I knew he was nervous about money. The hostess smiled warmly. "Of course, Mr. Wilson. Your table is ready." She picked up 3 menus, but Jessica quickly put her perfectly manicured hand on the hostess's arm to stop her. Jessica turned to me with a look of fake concern on her face. "Margaret, honey," she said in a low voice, though I'm sure other people could hear her. "Look at this place. It's so loud and crowded. All these people, all this noise. It's very overwhelming. You look a little tired. I'm worried this might be too much stress for you." I stared at her, my heart starting to pound hard in my chest. "I'm perfectly fine, Jessica," I said quietly but firmly. "I know you think you are, dear," she continued smoothly, patting my arm like I was a confused child. "But Michael and I would never forgive ourselves if you got sick or felt uncomfortable. You know how you get in busy, noisy places. This is really for your own good." She looked at Michael with commanding eyes, silently ordering him to agree with her. My son, my own flesh and blood, cleared his throat and couldn't even look at me. "She's right, Mom. It's really noisy in here and stuffy. You'd be much more comfortable outside getting some fresh air." Then came the final, devastating blow, delivered with the casual cruelty that had become Jessica's specialty. She opened her ridiculously expensive purse and pulled out a small package wrapped in wax paper. A sandwich. It looked like leftover turkey from last week's dinner, dry and sad. "Here," she said, pressing it into my hands. "I made you a little something before we left. You can just wait in the car. It's a beautiful evening. You can listen to the radio, and Princess will keep you company." Princess. Their spoiled little poodle, currently yapping from inside Jessica's designer dog carrier. The humiliation hit me like a physical blow, a hot wave of shame that made it hard to breathe. They weren't just excluding me from dinner. They were treating me like I was less than human. They were sending me, their mother, to eat a leftover sandwich in the back seat of a car with their dog while they went inside to eat lobster and drink champagne. "All for my own good," they said. The hostess watched with a frozen smile, her face showing horrified pity. A man at a nearby table who had been watching the whole thing quickly looked away, his face red with embarrassment for me. I didn't scream or cry. I was too shocked and hurt for that. A cold numbness settled over me like a blanket. I looked at my son, searching his face for any sign of love, of shame, of the sweet boy I had raised. I found nothing except a weak desire to make his horrible wife happy. Without saying a word, I turned and walked out of the restaurant, clutching that sad little sandwich in my trembling hand. The doorman, trying to be professional, held the door for me. I sat in the back seat of my own car in the parking lot, the engine turned off, the lights of the city blurring through the tears that now streamed down my face. A few minutes later, a parking attendant brought out Princess in her carrier and placed her on the seat next to me. "Your son said to make sure you had some company, ma'am," he said, trying to be kind. There I sat in the dark, listening to the muffled sounds of laughter and clinking glasses from inside the restaurant, the place where my son was celebrating his success without me. I unwrapped the sandwich. It was indeed dry turkey on stale bread. Princess looked up at me with her little tail wagging hopefully. I broke off a piece and gave it to her. We ate our sad dinner together in silence, the forgotten mother and the pampered poodle, both waiting in the car for our own good. The drive home was filled with one-sided chatter. I sat in the back seat like a ghost while Michael and Jessica in the front talked excitedly about their evening. They discussed the wine, the food, the important people Michael had met. They did not talk about me. It was as if my humiliation in the lobby, my lonely dinner in the parking lot with their dog, had never happened. Or worse, as if it was so normal and unimportant that it didn't deserve any comment. Their casual erasure of my pain was, in some ways, more cruel than what they had done to me in the first place. When we got back to my house, they walked me to the door with the same fake concern they had shown all evening. "See, Mom?" Michael said with forced cheerfulness. "Wasn't that better? You got to rest, and we had a productive evening." I didn't answer. I simply took my keys, walked into my empty house, and closed the door on their smiling, lying faces. The silence that greeted me inside was no longer comforting. It felt like a deep, dark hole. My house felt huge and cold, like a museum of a life that was no longer mine to live.
I didn't sleep at all that night.
My mind, usually calm and organized, was a raging storm of images and words. Jessica's condescending smile, Michael's inability to look at me, the pitying expression on the hostess's face, the feel of that dry turkey sandwich in my hands. The phrase that had become their favorite weapon against me kept echoing in my head, "It's for your own good." They had used my love for them, my desire to keep peace in the family, my quiet dignity as tools to control me, to push me aside, to make me smaller and smaller until I would finally just disappear. All the years of subtle insults, of helpful suggestions that were really commands, of their growing sense that they deserved my things, it all came together in this one unbearable act of public humiliation. My heartbreak, which had been like a heavy, suffocating blanket, began to burn away. What was left behind was something I hadn't felt this strongly in years, a cold, clear, unshakable anger. Not the hot, shouting kind of anger that Michael might show, but a quiet, patient, and far more dangerous fury. It was the fury of a woman who had been pushed past her breaking point, a woman with nothing left to lose. They thought I was a frail, helpless old woman. They saw me as a problem to be managed, a burden to be tolerated until they could get their hands on my house and savings. They had forgotten that I had been a nurse for 35 years, a job that required not just kindness, but a sharp mind, a steel backbone, and the ability to navigate complex situations and even more complex people. I would not let them win. I would not let them turn me into a forgotten footnote in my own life story. But I knew that getting emotional and confronting them would be useless. They would just dismiss me as hysterical or say I was not myself. My response had to be as cold and calculated as their own cruelty. It had to hit them where they were most vulnerable, in their shaky, image-obsessed financial lives. The first hint of how I might do that came a few weeks later. I had become quieter and more distant in their lives. I stopped being so agreeable. They mistook my withdrawal for defeated acceptance. One evening, Michael was at my house, supposedly to fix a loose board on my deck. He was on his phone, his back to me, his voice a desperate whisper. He thought I was in the kitchen making coffee, but I was standing quietly in the hallway, listening carefully. "I don't know what you want me to do," he was hissing into the phone. "The interest rate went up. The payment is going to be almost double what it was." "No, The bank won't give us a new loan. Not with our credit score looking like this. We're looking at a huge balloon payment in 6 months, and if we can't make it, I don't know. We could lose everything." He hung up, his face pale and sweaty with pure terror. Their mortgage, the one on their trendy, overpriced house in the suburbs, was in serious trouble. Serious trouble. I filed away this crucial piece of information like a precious gem in my mind. For years, they had worried about what would happen to them when something happens to Mom. They had it completely backwards. The real question was, what was going to happen to them now that something had finally, truly happened to Yo Mom? The quiet, agreeable mother they knew was gone forever. In her place was a woman with a mission. A woman who had just learned the first clue to her own freedom and to their spectacular, well-deserved downfall. The 6 months that followed my discovery of Michael and Jessica's mortgage crisis were like taking a masterclass in quiet, patient observation. I became a polite ghost in their lives, present but emotionally absent. I stopped offering to cook Sunday dinners. I no longer called to check on them. My withdrawal, which they had once desperately wanted, now seemed to make them nervous and uncomfortable. They had gotten used to my love and support as a constant thing, always there in the background of their self-centered lives. Now that it was gone, they seemed lost and confused. Their financial situation was clearly getting worse by the day. Michael's frantic whispered phone calls became more frequent. Jessica, in a stunning display of hypocrisy, began complaining to me about how expensive everything was and how they were barely surviving financially. She said this, of course, while carrying a brand new designer handbag that probably cost more than most people make in a month. But the desperation in her eyes was real and growing. They were drowning in debt, with that balloon mortgage payment hanging over them like a sword ready to fall. I listened with polite, detached sympathy, offering no solutions and no offers of financial help. I was no longer their safety net. My for your own good moment was coming, and I intended to savor every second of it. The inevitable plea for help arrived on a rainy Thursday afternoon. They came to my house together, a united front of fake charm and desperate hope. They brought what they thought was a peace offering, an expensive orchid, the kind Jessica loved but I had always found cold and lifeless. They sat on my sofa with bright, brittle smiles plastered on their faces. They made small talk, asking about my health and my garden club, their voices full of fake concern that was almost laughable. I let them perform their little act, sipping my tea and waiting for the real reason they had come. It finally came after 20 minutes of painfully awkward small talk. "Mom," Michael began, leaning forward with his hands clasped nervously. "Jessica and I are in a really serious bind. A really serious one."
"Oh,"
I said, my voice the picture of mild grandmotherly concern. "It's the house," he continued, the words tumbling out in a rush of rehearsed panic. "The bank, the interest rate changed, and there's this massive balloon payment due. If we can't refinance or pay it down, Mom, we're going to lose our home. We could be foreclosed on. We could be homeless." Homeless. The word hung in the air, thick with delicious irony. The same fate they had so casually given me emotionally, if not physically, when they made me eat my pathetic sandwich in the car. Jessica, seeing her cue, jumped in with crocodile tears welling up in her eyes. "Oh, Margaret," she sobbed dramatically. "It would be a complete disaster for us. The shame of it all. We don't know what to do. We've tried everywhere, but our credit, it's just not good enough for a new loan." She looked at me then, her face a mask of desperate hope. "You're our only hope, Margaret. We were thinking maybe a loan from your retirement savings? Just to help us save our home, to keep our family together. You wouldn't want to see your own son and daughter-in-law become homeless, would you, Mom? We're family." Family. The word from their lips felt like a slap in the face. The absolute nerve of them to appeal to the very family bond they had so thoroughly and publicly destroyed almost made me laugh out loud. I let the silence stretch on, watching them squirm as their carefully rehearsed performance crumbled under my quiet, steady gaze. "Alone," I said finally, my voice soft and thoughtful. "That would be quite a large amount, I imagine. Yes, Michael said quickly, jumping on what he thought was a sign that I was agreeing. But we'd pay you back with interest, of course. I promise. I stood up and walked to my writing desk, my back to them. I could feel their hopeful, greedy eyes boring into me. They thought I was going to get my checkbook. They thought their little performance had worked, that their poor old mother would once again ride to their rescue. But I wasn't reaching for my checkbook. I was reaching for a folder my lawyer had helped me prepare weeks ago for exactly this moment. I turned back to them with a very different kind of document in my hand. I've been thinking quite a bit about your financial situation, children, I said, my voice now completely different, no longer grandmotherly and soft, but cold and businesslike. And I agree. Something must be done. I sat back down, placing the folder on the coffee table between us. I can't just give you the money, I said, my eyes meeting theirs as a slow, cold smile touched my lips. But I will help you save your home. They leaned forward eagerly, their faces bright with triumphant, greedy joy. They thought they had won. They thought they had successfully manipulated their simple old mother one last time. They had no idea that they hadn't just come to me begging for a loan. They had just walked willingly into my carefully prepared trap. The triumphant joy on my son's face was both painful and satisfying to watch. He and Jessica exchanged a quick look that said, "We did it. The old woman is going to save us again." Their arrogance and their complete underestimation of me had always been their greatest weakness. Today, it would become their total undoing. "Oh, Mom, thank you so much," Michael gushed, his relief so obvious it was almost embarrassing. "We knew you'd understand. We knew you wouldn't let us lose the house." "I would never let a family home be lost," I replied, my words holding a double meaning that sailed right over their heads. The question is how best to protect it. I opened the folder my lawyer had prepared, a plan of beautiful, ruthless simplicity that my attorney, Mrs. Patterson, had drafted with obvious delight. I would not give them a loan, I explained. Instead, I would use a large portion of my retirement savings to quietly buy their mortgage directly from the bank. "I will become your lender," I explained, my tone as calm as if I were discussing the weather. "The bank gets their money immediately. The threat of foreclosure disappears, and the loan stays within the family. I could even," I added with fake generosity, "offer you slightly better terms than the bank would on a refinancing agreement. It's a win-win situation for everyone involved." They were speechless, not from suspicion, but from sheer amazement at what seemed like brilliant thinking from their supposedly simple old mother. They hadn't considered this option. It was a move far beyond their limited, desperate thinking. You can do that," Michael stammered in disbelief. "With the right amount of money, absolutely," I said coolly. "And I have been much more careful with my savings than you have been with yours." Jessica, her sharp mind already calculating the benefits, leaned forward eagerly. "So we'd own the house, but we just pay you every month instead of the bank." A look of greedy relief washed over her face. An old woman, she was probably thinking, would be a much more forgiving and easily manipulated lender than a heartless bank. A late payment here, a sob story there, they could probably stretch the terms for years. "Exactly," I said, meeting her gaze steadily. "It keeps the house safe. It solves your immediate crisis. And it keeps our financial matters private within the family." They were absolutely ecstatic. They fell all over themselves with gratitude, with promises to pay me back, with declarations of my brilliance and generosity. It was a nauseating performance, but I endured it with a calm smile. They were so blinded by their desperation and their own perceived cleverness in securing a bailout that they didn't bother to read the contract carefully. They didn't question the terms of the new loan agreement Mrs. Patterson had so expertly created, the one I had them sign right there at my dining room table. The agreement they so eagerly signed, transferring their massive debt from the bank to me, was a masterpiece of legal precision. It contained all the standard clauses, of course, but it also contained several special additions buried deep in the legal language they were too arrogant or too lazy to read carefully. A clause that eliminated the standard 10-day grace period for late payments. a clause that outlined severe, compounding daily interest penalties for any missed payments. And most beautifully, a clause that gave me, the new lender, the right to demand the entire loan balance immediately with only 90 days' notice if they failed to meet any terms of the agreement. They signed it without hesitation, their signatures bold and confident. They thought they had just secured their future. They thought they had just turned me into their personal, lenient bank. They had actually just handed me complete control over their financial lives. They had willingly, eagerly put their heads in the noose and then handed me the rope to pull it tight. The process of buying their mortgage took several weeks of quiet, efficient legal work by Mrs. Patterson's firm. Michael and Jessica, meanwhile, returned to their old, arrogant ways. Their relief made them even more insufferable than before. They threw a small but expensive dinner party to celebrate avoiding disaster, to which, naturally, I was not invited. I didn't mind at all. I was busy becoming the master of their financial destiny. One Tuesday morning, I received a call from Mrs. Patterson. "It's finished, Margaret," she said with satisfaction in her voice. "The transfer is complete. You are now officially the sole owner of the mortgage on your son's home." I thanked her calmly and hung up the phone. I walked to my kitchen window and looked out at my quiet neighborhood. My revenge was now in place. It was silent. It was completely legal. It was absolute. And it was entirely their own doing. They had forced me to eat a cold sandwich in a car with a dog because it was for my own good. They were about to learn what it truly meant when I decided something was for their own good. The trap was perfectly set. Now all I had to do was wait for them to make their first inevitable mistake. The first month under our new family financial arrangement went exactly as expected. Michael and Jessica made their mortgage payment on time, the electronic transfer appearing in my account with a quiet, satisfying notification. They were probably still congratulating themselves on their cleverness, their good fortune in having such a helpful, manageable mother. I, meanwhile, remained the picture of quiet, grandmotherly kindness. When they called, I was polite but distant. I never mentioned their debt to me. I let them believe they had won, that everything was back to normal. The normalcy, as I knew it would, lasted exactly one payment cycle. On the second day of the next month, their payment had not arrived. My lawyer had set up an automatic alert system for me. The moment the deadline passed, my phone buzzed with a simple, clinical message: "Payment from M and J Wilson overdue." A slow, cold smile crossed my face. I had wondered how long it would take them. Their financial discipline had always been like a house of cards. The slightest breeze of inconvenience or a single expensive purchase was enough to make it all collapse. The old bank would have waited patiently, sent polite reminders, offered grace periods. I was not the old bank. I was a woman who had eaten a dry turkey sandwich in a cold car while my son and his wife dined on expensive food inside. My capacity for mercy, at least where they were concerned, had been completely exhausted. That same afternoon, a courier from Mrs. Patterson's office delivered a stark, legally binding notice of late payment to their suburban home. The notice, drafted weeks earlier in preparation for this exact moment, outlined in cold, unforgiving detail the terms they had agreed to. No grace period. Immediate application of substantial late fees. Compounding daily interest penalties that would grow larger every single day. Michael's panicked phone call came within an hour. "Mom, what I asked this?" he shrieked, his voice higher than I'd ever heard it. "We got this crazy letter from your lawyer. $100 a day penalty. That's insane. We're only one day late." "Yes," I replied, my voice as calm as a frozen lake. "You are one day late, and the terms of the agreement you signed are very clear. I suggest you read them more carefully this time." But you're my mother," he sputtered desperately. "You can't be serious. Just forget the fee this time. We'll pay you tomorrow, I swear." "I am completely serious, Michael," I said, my voice quiet but unmovable. "And I am not your mother in this situation. I am your lender. As your lender, I expect the terms of our legally binding contract to be followed exactly. The late fee stands, and the daily interest is now growing every day. I suggest you and Jessica find a way to pay the full amount owed, including all penalties, as soon as possible. The cycle of their financial chaos, once a source of worry for me, now became the engine of my quiet, methodical revenge. They were late again the following month, this time by 4 days. Another notice, higher fees. They were forced to cancel a planned vacation. The month after that brought only a partial payment. Another notice, this time more severe, detailing their breach of contract. Their lives, once a performance of effortless wealth, became a frantic, desperate scramble to make their monthly payment to me, the simple old woman they had so completely dismissed and humiliated. Jessica had to sell her precious designer handbags. Michael was forced to trade his flashy car for a modest, embarrassingly practical model. The final act came 8 months into my role as their unforgiving lender. They missed an entire payment. Then they defaulted completely. Mrs. Patterson sent the final notice, citing the clause giving me the right to demand the full remaining balance immediately. They had 90 days to come up with the complete amount, a sum I knew they could never possibly raise. That was when they appeared on my doorstep one last time, not with threats or arrogance, but with the broken, desperate pleas of the truly defeated. They begged. They cried. They apologized, their words perhaps finally holding real remorse born of complete terror. They were about to lose their home. I sat them down in my living room, served them tea in my simple ceramic cups, and listened. When they finished their tearful pleas, I looked at my son, at the man he had become, and then at the woman who had helped shape him into this person. "You are so concerned about me being embarrassed at that restaurant," I said calmly, my voice holding no anger, only deep, weary sadness. "You said leaving me in the car with the dog was for my own good." I paused, letting my words settle in the quiet room. "Well, I have come to believe that learning to live within your means, learning the true weight of your responsibilities, learning that actions have real consequences, that is for your own good." "Mom, please," Michael whispered, his face gray with fear.
Don't do this.
"Don't let them take our house." "I am not letting anyone do anything, Michael," I replied firmly. "I am doing this. You have 90 days to sell your house and pay off your debt to me. If it's not sold by then, I will take legal ownership. It's more mercy than you ever showed me." I stood up, the conversation over. "I suggest you start packing." They left like ghosts, walking into a future of their own making. And